Welcome to my frontier. I love history, and frontier military wives are some of my favorite because I admire them so much for their diligence and their hard work, and man, they did it all in a dress. But they would travel months across the open terrain, across open territory, and on covered wagons and boats and all of those things to unknown destinations out there in the frontier somewhere, and sometimes not have a house or a post or anything, and they would live inside the hull of a ship or on a makeshift whatever or in their wagon until something was built. And even if something was built, they end up with this cute little log cabin with the dirt floor, so when you have torrential downpour, then it all runs right through the middle of your living room, which is great. Most of them didn't have furniture at first. They would use crates or wood stumps or whatever, tree stumps. But because they only carried less than 1,000 pounds on their trip, and they would do all of this. I mean, sometimes having such short notice to pick up the post and move it because there was Indian trouble or issues in another area, and so they just pick up the whole post and off they'd go. But they followed their husbands and worked with their husbands. And amazingly enough, these women, in addition to just mere survival, which is phenomenal to me in and of itself, they also raised children and taught them. They sustained their marriages. They built communities. They built churches. They were the stabilizing force in that area because, as is the case today, husbands would go and come back and go and come back, and the women were there. They sustained those things. They kept them stable and continued to grow them, and they did. That's why we have those communities today. That's why we have the churches today. Is because those women continued to sustain them. The men would come back. The men would contribute, and it became a community. But they were that stabilizing force that raised those children and that built a community. And it's just amazing to me that they did that. And I think, wow, I would never make it. And I don't know that I would. There may be a very definitive reason why God put me in this place in history, and I believe that there is. But, Paul talks to us in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1. He talks to us about our frontier. And much as we admire them and the frontier that they had, God has given us our very own. Paul talks to us in Ephesians 4, chapter 1, and he says, as a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life or to walk worthy of the calling you have received. There are three really good parts, really cool parts to that scripture. And the first part, it says to live a life or to walk. I urge you to live a life or to walk. It implies a continual process. This is not a do it and then we're going to take a vacation, we're going to take a break. Following God is a constant thing through our entire life. Sometimes we get tired, and sometimes we are weary, and sometimes we might not just want to because it's our own nature inside of us, our own fleshly nature. But following God is a continual process. It's something we have to continue to do for a lifetime. The second part of that, it says we live a life where we walk worthy. That word challenged me at first because worthy is something else. I know who God is, and I know who Corey is, and I see this huge, gigantic gap in between. I'll never be worthy. It's just a matter of fact. But in this instance, worthy is talking about being valuable and being dependable. Does my walk, does the life I live, does it look like that? Is it valuable and dependable for the kingdom? Am I valuable and dependable in the kingdom? Can God count on me to do what I'm supposed to do, to continue to live my life, to continue to follow, to continue to walk? Am I valuable and dependable? Am I worthy? So he tells us, I urge you to live a life or to walk worthy of the calling you have already received. I love the word calling, and you probably heard me talk about it a million times because, I just know God has calls on our life. He does. Great and noble things, amazing things, and sometimes he humbles me, and he says, you know what? Sometimes I don't want you to do great and noble things. I want you to do humble things. And that's okay too because it's a calling. But sometimes I wait and I think, okay, well, what's he going to call me to next? Or what's he going to call me to do? And Paul tells us in Ephesians 4, chapter 1, it is a calling you have already received. I urge you, brothers, to walk worthy or to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Not the one you're waiting for, not the one you're hoping for, but the one you've already received, the one you've already got. And he gave us one in the place where he planted us, in the here and now, in our very own frontier. Sometimes it's raising our children, sometimes that's building a marriage, sometimes that's ministering to neighbors, sometimes it's building a community, sometimes it's building a church. But we all have a frontier. We all have a calling we have already received. We have something that He has already put us in this place to do. Are we doing that? Am I doing that? Am I doing what He's already called me to do? So that's my challenge. This is my frontier. This is my Kansas frontier. And yours may look very different in a high-rise building or out in the middle of nowhere, but this is mine. This is where God has planted me, and I need to do the things that He has already called me to do in this place. So I challenge you to do the same thing. I urge you to live a life or to walk worthy of the calling you have received. To conquer your own frontier, to make a difference in the kingdom, to be valuable and dependable to the God that we serve. Conquer your own frontier.